Okay, I hope this is recording. So, Steve, what happened is that I sent a video that didn't go through because while I was recording it, I guess I went a little long and the timing ran out. So I'm sending you a second one. And this one is for free. So anyway, I'm just going to be walking around. Lots going on. Anyway, so you were born and raised in Baltimore, Patterson Park. So I have a couple Patterson Park stories. But I'll tell you the one which I find interesting. Whoops, let me go back this way. Is that we were all shooting a scene, not in Patterson Park, but on the outskirts of Patterson Park. And so we, at one point, the actual police showed up and they said, you've got to move out of this particular area. You've got to, get up tight against the walls. And there was a sniper or someone who had a gun and who was had been shooting. And we heard a couple of shots and we were, we weren't afraid, and we were just kind of interested. And I remember all of us kind of popping our heads up and looking around the corner to the alleys and things like that. And it took about an hour for that whole situation to resolve. So that's my one Patterson Park story that I remember. Although there's others, and I'm not sure, but I think maybe you could correct me. I think we shot a scene with a boat inside the park. A guy with a dog rowing, and it was a scene with Andre and I, and it's like probably that episode was one of the funnest episodes I'd ever shot, and we were investigating the death of a dog that was murdered. Anyway, moving on. You were an Emmys assistant on the 20% of Solution with Richard Belzer and I, who was always fun to act with. And in season 7, he and I got paired up a lot. And that ne'er-do-well Clark Johnson directed. Kidding, he's a great guy. He was a good best man at my wedding. So the thing that I like about this is that we were always on the lookout for people that were new to film acting or TV acting or whatever, and who just kept going. Like, the camera had stopped and they just kept going, acting. I always loved that because it was just having that sense of not knowing when the camera was turning on or turning off. I always loved that. So it makes sense that you and I had a little discussion about that. Because actors are, just so self-aware, and they can actually learn from that type of, that kind of, that lack of awareness about the camera. That's actually a good thing. What else? And also, it was that I went back to Baltimore for the first time since 2005. Just last November, we had a reunion of Homicide, and mostly everyone was there, and it was an incredible time. And yeah, Baltimore's changed a lot. I didn't recognize so many areas, but we had the reunion at one of the bars right across the street from the Pembry Hotel. Come on. And here's the thing about the Pembry, is that we took a tour of it to see how it had changed. And of course, you walk into it, you don't even remember that Homicide was shot there. And neither does anyone else. So no one who worked there really knew about the show. They hadn't been given, like sort of the Homicide 101 lowdown and a history of it, which I would have done if I owned that hotel. I would have sat everyone down when they first got the job and said, here's the show that was shot here. But that's the difference between me and someone who owns a hotel. So we actually had to give Kyle, who was our guide, a guy named Kyle, we actually had to give him a Homicide 101 on what was going on. So we gave him a tour while he was giving us a tour. And we told him about all of the different places that had changed, the different rooms and where the interrogation room was and all of that stuff. which was really, it was kind of fun. And their restaurant, don't try the pancakes if you ever eat there. It's awful. Let's see, what else can I say? And also in terms of like antidotes, we had the Patterson Park antidote, but also, Clark and I always had great times on the show. And I remember one time we were vying for the attention of some woman on the show, and we were shooting in the atrium of this hotel, and Clark had been staying there, and he had a room, and he had a little ledge. It wasn't that high up. But my way of getting attention was to write poetry, so I had given her a poem to read. What a romantic. And she had like looked at it and kind of nodded her head. It wasn't very good. And then she looked up, and she goes, "Oh my God." And she looked up, and there was Clark walking out on this ledge, contemplating life, not realizing he was walking on a ledge. And she goes, "Oh my God, Clark." And he looked up like, "Oh, how did I get out here?" And then that was it. I lost her. She was completely on the Clark Johnson team. So the fourth chair, no, wasn't for Bayliss. In some ways it may have been for Bayliss, but it was for any kind of fictional cop that, makes his way into, coffee clatch heaven. But no, there was no, according to Tom Fontana, they'd never meant for Bayliss to be dead or to have taken his own life or anything like that. They had meant for him to go off to prison and spend his time in prison for what he had done, and that indeed Frank possibly turned him in. Who knows? So that's what had happened with Bayliss. So the fourth chair, who knows who it was for? So there we go. That's what we. That's all I have to say. Anyway, again, my apologies for this taking so long, but enjoy the video, and you take good care of yourself. All right, bye bye.